Welcome to another episode of Tech Talk. I'm your host, Steve Santamouris, and I'm joined by El Jefe, the boss, Mario Zaki. What's going on, Mario?
Not much, Steve. How you been? Long time no talk to.
Yeah, I'm good. Yeah, it's an inside joke, so we haven't recorded in about maybe almost 4 weeks. It seems like every week when we go to do this, something happens, something comes up. Um, So, yeah, obviously the point of this podcast is really just to help, business owners. We go on a lot of assessments, we see a lot of stuff. So, just one, two small things that anyone can get out of this could wind up saving themselves from potential calamity. Um, what I wanted to discuss is the podcast episode that you did on Unhacked, your real
Oh,
podcast. I believe it was episode 27, and it was like an cyber
yeah,
insurance like guru.
yeah. That was Joseph Brunsman. Uh,
Yeah, so I,
Great
I
guy.
actually watched this about 4 times this episode. For anyone who's watching this, check it out. It is really unbelievable. But one of the things that he really goes into, which I don't think that business owners pay very little, if no attention to, is what happens essentially after the breach.
Mhm.
Because it seems like most of the conversations that we have with businesses, it's either okay, we're secure or we're not, and these are the potential vulnerabilities we have. But there isn't a lot of kind of detail in like exactly what happens afterward, right?
Yeah,
So
yeah. I mean,
maybe you could touch on that.
yeah. So, after a breach, and let the record show, knock on wood, it hasn't. None of our customers have had that issue. But after a breach, there's um, a lot of business owners will kind of just start panicking and not know what to do. The first thing they do is they try to restore or have their IT company restore. But if you're going to, depending on the severity of what happened and, the size of the company, if you're going to possibly put in like an insurance claim, assuming you have cybersecurity insurance, um, it's you can't just go in there and say, okay, let's restore from backup, and we'll deal with the insurance company. With our main objective right now is to get back and functioning, for the company to start functioning. It's sad to say, but it's not going to be that easy. You're worried that you're not going to be able to continue business as usual for more than 2, 3, 4 hours, days, weeks, and that is unfortunately sometimes, depending on the severity, that is the case, is that you will be out of commission for a while because the IT company can't just come in there and restore from backup. A, you don't know when the issue happened. B, what information they you know, took, if they extracted any information, and see how it came in, how it got, so, when and how they got in. Because you could end up restoring and then the whole thing could happen all over again if you didn't fix the initial issue. Insurance companies tend to want to send out their own crew to assess the situation. And, unfortunately, it's not like they're going to tell you, okay, we're sending somebody out, they'll be there this, on their way, this afternoon. Sometimes they'll say, okay, well, it's going to take about 2 weeks just to send a team out there. Then the team comes in, they need to assess what's going on, because without that, they're not going to just, give you a check. They're going to want to figure out what happened. Was it negligence on the owner's part, on the IT part, how they got in? Was it a click, by an email or something like that? So that part can take some time.
But what this is really important. So let's say, I mean, we've done probably a good 250 assessments. I mean, since I've been here,
Hmm.
a good 40% of those, when we ask them, how long can you go without your data? A good 40, 50% of them say, not even a day. Like,
Yeah.
so what happens if, let's say, they're losing a ton of money and they just restore to the backup. Because I know he went into this, Joe, because this is very important. Because if they just restore, right, in a
Yeah.
state of panic or force the company to restore, like essentially what happens? Like the claim could be denied, right? He was
The
saying.
90% of the time the claim will be denied because if you just go in there and just restore, um, assuming you're able to restore, assuming you have a good backup and you're able to restore, you still need to know, do I restore from yesterday? Do I restore from last week? Because the thing is, a lot of this times is like whatever, when a hacker does penetrate a network, they're not just, you're not just clicking on a link and then all of a sudden everything goes black. A lot of times they're on there, and we've talked to different people. They can be on there for like up to 8 months,
Mm-hmm.
because what they use is like AI tools to analyze they'll know more about your company than the owner will know about the company. They know when the peak time, to hit you if they're going to go with just a ransom. Like, okay, this company collects most of their checks, towards the end of the month or towards the beginning of the month, where they pay their bills the opposite time. They know exactly what day to hit you. Okay, because they know what, or a lot of times they have access to like your QuickBooks and stuff like that. They can see, um, so, or they sometimes will, log on there, see, they just analyze what you're doing, analyze your emails, see who you're, dealing with, because a lot of times they'll try to also not only penetrate your network or compromise your company, but they'll also try to compromise your other business associates or vendors or customers or whatever. It's what's called like a supply chain attack. So they won't, so again, if you try to restore from last week and they've been on the network for 8 months,
It's useless.
it's going to be useless, So you really need to first find out how they got in there. Once you
Mm-hmm.
find out how they got in there, then you can most likely find out how long they've been in there, and that's not going to take, you just restore from a backup, and from people that I've talked to, once you restore and they find out you tried to restore whatever that ransomware or that ransom price was before, it's now going to be double and the
Mm-hmm.
time period is going to be less.
Right. So
Yeah.
if let's say it is a company that is not maybe using like let's say backup softwares that are using AI that are scanning for these types of things. I mean, not only can they restore the hacker back onto the network, they're also going to have, in most probable, their claim denied, so they're getting screwed like multiple ways.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then who knows if the clients, which actually this brings me to the next point, which is if the clients are breached, right? So he referenced litigation, which I mean, obviously we know about because this has been on the uprise now.
Hmm.
It seems like this is like the ambulance chaser of 24, 25, right?
Yep. Correct.
Because they could, it's they're looking for any type of negligence which they get. Can you just walk us through like what he was? I know you called it "Daddy's getting
Yeah.
Daddy's getting a new boat"
So
email.
what ends up happening is if there's a breach that happens and it affects customers, like let's say a doctor's office, and it affected their patients and their records being leaked and stuff like that. What ends up happening is when one of those patients hires a lawyer or multiple hire a lawyer and then becomes a class action lawsuit, they're going to go in there and say, well, how did this happen? And why did it happen? Was it negligence? Was it something that, were you aware that this was, you know, something that wasn't in place? Let's go simple and say, did you know that you didn't have two-factor authentication on your emails like 365? And if it was proven that like, yeah, IT told us we should really enable this and we thought it was really annoying and we didn't want it, That's where he says that lawyer, that's when the lawyer, it goes cha-ching, and that's when they know he's getting a new boat. Okay? Because that made their case a million times easier. They could then say this was negligence, you were aware of it, and you purposely didn't do anything. Or you can go as far as like something a little more complicated. Did you know that you're running an outdated antivirus, or your servers were completely out in the open to the public? Were any of this stuff brought to your attention and then you decided not to do it? Did
Mm.
IT tell you you need a new server and you're like, I can't buy a brand new server, and new workstate, we see a lot of um, places that among those 250 that we go to, sometimes they're running like a server that's 2012 and workstations that are like, 10 years old and running like Windows 7. If there's proof that IT warned you about this and you decided not to do it, then that's negligence. Now, that doesn't say you have to do everything all at one time.
Hmm.
Sometimes if you need 30 new computers and like two new servers, yeah, it's hard to come up with that money all at once. But as long as you're making an effort to address it and work towards um, resolving it, and let's say, okay, let's do 5 computers this month, let's do another 5 computers next month, and stuff like that. You're working to that end goal.
Hmm.
Then it wasn't negligence. You're just working within budget and you're trying to rectify this situation. That's when the lawyer is not getting a new boat. But
Hmm.
when and the thing is, and we discussed this before. They're going to go in there and subpoena all your emails, and if they need to, they will subpoena the
IT company.
IT company's emails. Now, if you go in there and you just delete all these emails or whatever, first of all, when that first happens, the last thing you're thinking about is, oh, IT told me about this. You're just panicking, but they're going to subpoena all your emails. If you delete those emails after the fact, then that's what's the term? Like you're
Obstruction. Well, that's a whole
obstruction.
other, yeah.
Yeah, obstruction of evidence. But also IT is going to also submit because they need to cover their ass,
Hmm.
saying, well, we did mention that this was obsolete. We did recommend this, and we're off the hook for that. You
Hmm.
know.
Right. So I guess what could people, now that's aside from, let's say, hardware, because I think most of the businesses that we actually go in to do these assessments, it's usually the first one, right? Or maybe they've done one a couple of years ago. So what do you feel is the best simple thing that they can do, right? Besides, most business owners don't want to call their IT company and say, hey, do I need anything? Right? Because it's
Mhm.
almost like you're taking out your checkbook. So what do you think would be a good, um, kind of first step or something they can do to at least kind of find out where, I mean, assessment or a pen test, I would assume, um, shameless
Yeah, I
plug.
mean,
I'm saying it would be essentially a much better way to go. Because most business owners are not just going to pick up the phone and say, hey, listen, I want to make sure we're as secure as possible. What do I need? Because,
well, it works in both ways, right? So you don't want to just call the IT company and say, I'm opening up the checkbook, but it also works the other way where are they telling you you need this,
Mhm.
okay? And you should go and get a second opinion. So either if they didn't mention it to you, you should probably go out and get a second opinion, and have somebody come do like a network assessment. Or if they did tell you you need all this, you could also go in for a second opinion and say, do I need all this stuff?
Mhm.
You know? Um, and then, obviously, you make the decision at that point. But there's a lot of times where if it makes sense, it's probably right. If they're telling you, these computers are running Windows 7 or even Windows 10, like right now, a lot of Windows computers are still running Windows 10, and Windows 10 is, still good and it is supported, but it's only supported until October of 2025. And if the computer is you could upgrade it to Windows 11, great. If you're not
Mhm.
able to upgrade it to Windows 11, then you need to replace it.
Mm.
So a second opinion is definitely you're right, like the best thing to do, and
Hmm.
we offer it to a lot of prospects. We even we talk about it during the other podcast on hack.live. We discuss it. We offer network assessments and pen tests, and let's see what the results say. There's no obligation.
Yeah, I mean, and even if you don't get it from us, just get one in place, because it's a good kind of way to kind of see where the exposure is, and you'll have an idea. You'll have almost like a blueprint, and you'll be able to check, cross reference that against what the what the IT come. I mean, we could talk about this for hours. I know we generally
Yeah.
try to keep these at 15 minutes, and we always go over anyway. Any last thoughts
No,
before we
no,
break for
that's
another 4 weeks?
no. We need to do this a lot more often, but
Yeah.
no, I mean, I think we covered everything, and for anybody that is listening, I'm definitely happy to do an assessment for them.
Okay, perfect. So, all right, guys, anything you need, you could reach us. I definitely recommend everyone going and checking out the Unhacked episode 27, I believe it is.
Yeah, and you
That's
can
the
get
one where
there
we're
by
referencing.
so
Yeah, that's the
you
one we're
can go to
referencing all this info from. Any questions, you can reach us 973-272-2324 or email us anytime. I guess until next week, or until next time we record this again. Take
all
care,
right,
everybody.
guys. Take care. Thank you.